All right, so we're diving deep into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power today.
Yeah.
Our listeners have been checking out all sorts of stuff, right? Interviews,
Right.
articles.
You
Even
know.
I saw some Wikipedia in there.
Yeah.
And so we're here to kind of help everyone make sense of it all
Absolutely.
because power dynamics, they're
Everywhere.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
And this book, it's definitely something that gets people talking for sure.
Yeah. A little controversial,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
but that's part of what makes it so interesting, I think.
It makes you think.
It does.
Yeah, and one of the things I found really interesting is how Greene uses all these historical figures, right?
Yeah.
Like he'll bring up
Genghis Khan.
to modern day CEOs.
Yeah. And show how, like, even though these situations are centuries apart,
Right.
the same power dynamics
Absolutely.
are still in play.
That's the thing that blew me away was how these principles.
Yeah. They transcend time, they transcend culture, they transcend industry.
So it's like whether you're talking about, ancient conquerors or
Right.
negotiating a deal today,
Yeah.
the same principles.
The same underlying dynamics are at play.
Yeah, they're still relevant. It's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. And, it's like even someone as ruthless as, Genghis Khan was susceptible to these kinds of power plays.
Oh, tell me about that. What was that story?
Well, there's this story where one of his advisors actually convinced him to spare an entire city
Wow.
by appealing not to his compassion, which,
Yeah.
wasn't really Genghis Khan's strong suit,
Right.
but to his desire for a lasting legacy.
So it was about understanding
Yes.
what motivated him, like what he really cared about.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It's like you got to know your target. You got to know what makes him tick.
It reminds me of that story with Al Capone
Oh, yeah.
and Victor Lustig.
The con man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great example.
Even someone like Al Capone at the top of, the criminal world, he was still vulnerable to these kinds of, manipulations, these power plays.
If you know how to play the game.
Yeah, if you know the rules.
Right.
But that kind of makes me wonder, like, are we supposed to use these laws to manipulate people?
That's a good question.
Because some of them sound, honestly, kind of ruthless.
Yeah, some of them do.
Like, I don't want to be out there,
Right.
like, backstabbing people. And
No. And that's not really what it's about.
Okay.
It's not about becoming some sort of, Machiavellian puppet master.
Right.
Greene himself actually argues that understanding these laws is more about self-awareness and strategic thinking.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the power dynamics that are already at play so you can navigate them effectively.
So it's like having a toolkit.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You don't have to use every tool in every situation.
Right.
But you should know what's available and how to use each one properly.
Absolutely.
So for someone listening who's been, diving into all this material,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways? What are the laws that really pack a punch?
Let's start with Law 1. Never outshine the master.
Ooh, okay.
This is one that Greene learned the hard way.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he actually got fired from a job
Oh, no.
for unintentionally making his boss feel insecure.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like, it's not enough to just be good at what you do.
Right.
You have to be aware of how your actions, your success, might be perceived by those above you.
So it's like you have to manage your own ambition, but also manage how other people see it.
Exactly.
That's tricky.
It is tricky. And, he compares this in the book to a historical account of a man who really wanted to become the general of sea in his army.
Oh, okay.
And this guy was competent, but he made the mistake of showing his ambition too overtly.
Oh.
And you know what happened.
What happened?
He ended up getting killed because he was perceived as a threat.
Wow. That's a pretty extreme example.
It is, but it shows how, these power dynamics can have real-world consequences.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think twice about how you present yourself, especially, in a competitive environment.
Absolutely.
So manage your ambition, but also manage how other people perceive it.
Right.
Okay, that's Law 1. What's another one that, stands out to you?
Well, Law 7 is a big one.
Yeah.
Get others to do the work, but always take the credit.
Ooh, that sounds kind of
A little Machiavellian.
It does, a little bit.
It is.
But I can also see how it plays out in the real world.
Oh, absolutely.
Didn't Greene himself experience this in Hollywood?
He did. He talks about how people were constantly trying to steal his ideas.
Wow.
And it's a reminder that in any field, there will always be people who try to, take advantage of others for their own gain.
So it's about delegation, but also making sure that you get credit for your vision.
Exactly. And for your leadership.
Yeah, and for your work, ultimately.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's a bit of a dark side of power dynamics, for sure.
Now, there's one law that I found particularly interesting. It's Law 48.
Assumed formlessness.
Yeah, assume formlessness.
That's a good one.
It sounds kind of mystical, almost like a martial arts concept.
It does. It does.
Well, what does it actually mean?
Well, the principle behind it is actually incredibly practical.
Okay.
It's about being adaptable, being fluid,
Okay.
like water.
Like water.
Yeah, Greene uses the analogy of water.
I can see that. I can see that.
Because water can be, it can be gentle, it can be forceful, it adapts to its container.
It takes the shape of whatever.
Exactly.
I like it.
And that's what he's saying. True power lies in being able to adapt to changing circumstances.
So are we just supposed to, go with the flow all the time?
Not exactly. It's more about recognizing that the most successful people are those who could adjust their strategies as needed. What worked in the past might not work in the present.
Right.
What works in one situation might not work in another.
Right, right.
You have to be flexible. You have to be constantly adapting to new information, to new challenges.
So it's about being adaptable, but also having, a strong sense of self, right? Like knowing what you're good at.
Yes, absolutely.
Like someone like
Elon Musk, for example.
Yeah, like Elon Musk.
He has a very strong sense of self-belief.
Yeah.
But he's also willing to adjust course when necessary.
Right. So it's that balance.
Exactly.
And that brings us to another really important aspect of all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yes.
Why is that so important, especially in the context of, Greene's laws?
Well, because if you're not self-aware, these laws can easily be used against you.
Ah, okay.
You can become the victor of your own ambition or your own desire for power.
Right, right.
Greene himself admits that early in his career, he was pretty naive, and he made a lot of mistakes because he wasn't fully aware of his own strengths and weaknesses.
So you have to know yourself.
You have to know yourself.
Before you can really understand how to navigate all of this.
Absolutely. You got to know what you're good at, what you're bad at, what motivates you, what your blind spots are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And it's not just about avoiding being manipulated.
Right.
It's also about making better decisions.
Okay, so self-awareness is key.
It's a key.
And how do you see that play out in the real world? Like, how does that actually manifest?
Well, think about the people who are most successful in their respective fields, right?
Okay.
They tend to have a very strong sense of self. They know who they are. They know what they want.
Right.
And they're not afraid to leverage their unique qualities to achieve their goals.
Okay.
They also understand their weaknesses.
Right.
But they don't let those weaknesses hold them back.
They use them to their advantage.
Exactly.
So it's about, being honest with yourself about who you are, what you want, what you're capable of.
Absolutely.
And then, using that self-knowledge to navigate all of this complexity.
That's the key.
And this ties into, another big theme in Greene's work, right? Perception.
Perception, yeah.
Like how people see things.
It's huge. It's like perception shapes reality in a way.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that story Greene tells about the Chinese general
Zhu
Liang.
Oh, yeah.
He was totally outnumbered, right?
Completely outnumbered.
But he used his reputation.
His reputation for being, almost like a magician.
Like a brilliant strategist.
A brilliant strategist, yeah.
To basically scare off
An army of 20,000 soldiers.
Wow, that's incredible. Just by creating this illusion of power.
It's the power of perception.
Yeah, the power of perception.
And Greene argues that people are easily seduced by appearances. And so mastering your image, how you present yourself, that could be a really powerful tool in the power game.
So it's not about being fake. It's about being strategic with the information you reveal and the image you project.
Right.
It's about understanding, how your actions and your presentation will be perceived by others.
Yeah, you have to be conscious of the image you're putting out there.
Okay. It's like, we were talking about poker earlier.
Yeah.
It's like knowing when to hold back, when to bluff, when to show your hand.
Exactly.
I think we're starting to uncover some of the deeper layers of Greene's work here.
Yeah, we're getting there.
But I think it's a good point to maybe take a moment, let all this sink in.
Let it digest a little bit.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
Underground.
A lot of ground, and there's still much more to explore.
Oh, yeah. We're just getting started.
We've been talking about these laws from the 48 Laws of Power, and it seems like they're not just about, like, you know, corporate ladders and political stuff. It's really about how we deal with each other every day.
It's about understanding human nature.
Yeah, at work, in our relationships, even, you know, with ourselves.
Exactly. It's about those unspoken rules.
Yeah.
Those dynamics that are always there, influencing how we behave.
And like we said before, self-awareness is key to making these laws work for us.
Absolutely. You have to know yourself.
Right.
If you want to play the game effectively.
So you're saying, like, before we even try to, you know, influence anyone or anything, we got to figure out our own.
Yeah, you got to know your own strengths, your weaknesses, your motivations, your blind spots.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can become the victim of these very laws.
Okay, so which laws, like, really highlight this idea of self-awareness?
Well, Law 3 is a big one. Conceal your intentions.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a little strategic.
It sounds kind of like a game of poker almost.
It is. It's about being calculated.
Okay.
Not revealing your true motives too early.
Right.
Keeping people off balance.
So they can't, like, anticipate your next move.
Exactly. You want to maintain that element of surprise.
I can see how that would be helpful, like, in a negotiation.
Yeah.
You don't want to show your hand too early.
Right. You don't want to give the other side an advantage.
So is it about being deceitful? Or is it more about...
No, not deceitful. It's about choosing your moments.
Okay.
Being strategic with the information you reveal.
Okay, so you're not lying, you're just holding back a little bit.
You're holding back, you're creating that aura of mystery.
Keep them guessing.
Exactly.
And this kind of ties into another law, right? Control the options.
Law 31.
Yeah, Law 31. That's the one where you give people, like, the illusion of choice.
Right, but you're subtly guiding them toward the outcome you want.
Okay, that sounds a little manipulative, I gotta say.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's a delicate art.
Okay.
It's not about forcing someone's hand.
Right.
It's about framing the choices in a way that makes them naturally gravitate toward the decision you prefer.
I see. So it's like setting up a chessboard.
Yeah.
Where, like, certain moves are more appealing than others, even though technically your opponent has free will.
Right. They have the illusion of free will.
Right. The illusion of free will. It's all about perception.
Exactly. It's about understanding what motivates people.
Yeah.
And using that knowledge to nudge them in the right direction.
It's like those marketing campaigns where they give you, like, 3 different options.
Right.
But one is clearly, like, the best value or the most popular choice.
Yeah. They're not telling you what to do, but they're definitely influencing your decision.
Right. They're definitely steering you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's about understanding that people's decisions are driven by, like, logic,
right,
but also emotion.
Emotion plays a huge role.
And if you can tap into those emotions, then you can really increase your influence.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the facts and figures.
Right.
It's about creating a narrative.
A story.
Yeah, a story, an emotional connection that resonates with people.
That they can connect with on a deeper level.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And sometimes it's about tapping into their fears.
Oh, okay.
Which leads us to another interesting law. Law 32, play to people's fantasies.
Ooh, play to people's fantasies.
Greene argues that most people are drawn to those who can offer them an escape from reality.
Okay, so it's not about being, like, realistic.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what people yearn for.
What they dream of.
Yeah, what they wish for.
Exactly, and presenting yourself as the key to those desires.
Okay, so you're painting a picture of possibility.
Yes.
Of excitement.
Of hope.
Yeah, of hope, even if it's not necessarily, like, grounded in reality.
He compares it to, like, finding an oasis in the desert.
Okay.
You know, people are naturally drawn to sources of hope and inspiration.
Especially when times are tough.
Especially when times are tough, exactly.
I can see how this applies to leadership. Like, a great leader often inspires their followers by painting a vision.
A vision of a better future.
Yeah, even if the path to get there is difficult.
Right. It's about creating that shared narrative.
Yeah, that shared dream that motivates people.
That binds people together.
But there's a fine line there, right?
There is.
Between inspiration and manipulation.
Absolutely.
How do we make sure that we're not, like, exploiting people
It's a good question.
with these laws?
And that's where intention comes in.
Okay.
And self-awareness.
Right.
Greene isn't advocating for using these laws to deceive people or to harm people.
Okay.
It's about understanding these mechanisms so you can make conscious choices.
So it's about knowing that these laws can be used for good.
Yes.
But they can also be used for bad.
For ill, for sure.
And it's up to us to be responsible.
Wield them wisely.
Okay, so let's talk about a law that kind of stands out for its intensity.
Okay.
Law 15, crush your enemy.
Totally.
Oh yeah, that's a powerful one.
It's pretty stark.
It is. It's about being decisive.
It's about recognizing that even a small ember of your opponent's power can reignite and become a threat later on.
So you're saying, like, don't leave any loose ends.
Don't leave any loose ends, exactly.
It sounds kind of scary.
It is. It's a more extreme application of the laws.
Okay.
But it does highlight the importance of thinking long term.
Okay.
And understanding the potential consequences of not being decisive.
So it's not about being vindictive. It's about being strategic.
It's about being strategic.
That's right.
And understanding the long game.
Right, because if you leave any opening, any weakness,
it could come back to haunt you.
It could come back to bite you, yeah.
Like.
And that reminds me of another law that emphasizes, like, thinking ahead, right? Law 29 plan, all the way to the end.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, Greene seems to be saying that we should be very, very calculated.
Yes, he's a big believer in having a plan.
Okay.
And not just a plan for the immediate future, but a plan that takes into account all the potential outcomes.
So you're not just thinking about, like, what's going to happen tomorrow. You're thinking about, like, the ripple effects.
Exactly. You're thinking about the long-term consequences of your actions.
Okay. So it's like having a roadmap for a long journey.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You might encounter detours, roadblocks, unexpected things. But if you know your destination...
And you have a general plan.
Yeah, you can navigate those challenges.
You can stay on course.
Okay, so it's about being proactive.
Proactive, yes.
Not just reactive.
Not just reacting to events, but shaping events.
Yeah, like taking control of your destiny.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
Okay, so let's talk about a law that's a little more subtle.
Okay.
Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
This one really made me think because it seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it?
Like, wouldn't being more present make you more visible, more influential?
You would think so, but Greene argues the opposite.
Okay.
He says that by strategically withdrawing from a situation,
okay,
by making yourself less available, you actually increase your perceived value.
It's like the old saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
When something's scarce.
It becomes more desirable.
It becomes more valuable.
Right.
I can see that. Like, think about limited edition products or exclusive clubs.
Right.
The reason they're so appealing
is because they're not available to everyone.
Right. They're exclusive.
Yep. Exactly.
So are you saying, like, we should just, like, disappear for a while?
No, not disappear completely.
Okay.
It's about being strategic with your time and energy.
Okay.
Focusing on the things that really matter.
Right.
And then when you do make an appearance, you make it count.
Okay. So you're creating anticipation.
Anticipation, yeah.
A little bit of mystery.
A little bit of mystery.
Keep them wanting more.
It's very ass.
This sounds like a tactic that requires, like, a lot of finesse.
It does.
And self-awareness.
You have to understand the context.
Okay.
The dynamics of the situation.
Yeah.
And how your absence will be perceived.
Okay, so it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing?
No, not at all.
It's about knowing when to use it.
And how to use it.
Right, and how to use it effectively.
Right.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here, and it seems like with each law we discuss, the importance of self-awareness just keeps coming up.
It's the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
Without self-awareness, these laws can easily be misused.
Oh.
They can become tools for manipulation.
Right.
Or even self-sabotage.
So it's not just about knowing the laws.
Right.
It's about knowing yourself.
It's about knowing yourself.
And how you fit into all of this.
Absolutely.
Before we dive into the final part of this deep dive,
okay,
I think it's a good idea to maybe take a breath.
Let it all sink in.
Yeah, let it all sink in.
These are powerful concepts.
They are.
And they require careful consideration.
Yeah, and a good dose of introspection, I think.
Absolutely.
We've really dug into some of these laws from the 48 laws of power.
Yeah, some pretty potent strategies.
And I keep thinking about how, they could be used in in so many different ways.
It's true. They're tools.
Yeah, tools that can build things up or
tear them down.
Exactly.
It all comes down to how you use them.
And I guess that's where that whole idea of self-awareness comes in again.
It always comes back to self-awareness.
It really does.
Knowing yourself, understanding your own motivations, your values.
Right, because if you don't,
you can easily get lost in the game.
Yeah, or even end up using these laws against yourself, right?
Absolutely, that's the danger.
Okay, so which laws like really stand out to you in terms of this self-awareness piece?
Well, Law 46 is a good one. Never appear too perfect.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
It is, because we're always told to like strive for perfection.
Right. Be the best you can be.
Yeah, be flawless.
But Greene says that can actually backfire.
How so?
Because it can make you seem unapproachable.
Ah, okay.
Intimidating. Even people are more drawn to those who are relatable.
So it's better to be like authentic.
Authentic, yes.
Even if it means showing your flaws a little bit.
Exactly. Embracing your imperfections.
It's like that saying, never compare your blooper reel to someone else's highlight reel.
That's a good one.
We all mess up sometimes.
We all have our behind-the-scenes moments.
Exactly. And showing that human side.
It makes you more likable.
Yeah, more relatable.
More human.
And that can actually make you more influential.
Absolutely. It's counterintuitive, but it's true.
Okay, so being perfect isn't all it's cracked up to be.
No, not when it comes to power dynamics.
Now, there's another law that kind of plays on this idea of balance.
Oh, yeah. Law 38, think as you like, but behave like others.
Okay, so that sounds like a tough one to navigate.
It requires a lot of social intelligence.
Okay.
It's about being true to yourself, but also understanding the social norms.
Right, the unspoken rules.
Exactly, and knowing when to follow them.
When to break them.
Exactly. It's about picking your battles.
Okay, so it's like you can have your own unique perspective, but you also have to be aware of like the context.
Social context, yeah.
Yeah, and how your actions will be perceived.
It's like you don't want to be the nail that sticks out and gets hammered down.
Right. Sometimes it's better to blend in.
Conserve your energy for the fights that really matter.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about being strategic with your nonconformity.
Now let's talk about a law that that feels very practical.
Okay, which one?
Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a little bit manipulative, I gotta say.
It can be, but it's also just, understanding human nature.
Okay.
People are more likely to help you if they see what's in it for them.
So instead of like appealing to their sense of duty,
right, or obligation,
you're framing your request in a way that benefits them.
Exactly. You're creating a win-win situation.
It's like you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, make it appealing.
Make it mutually beneficial.
Okay, so understand their motivations, and then tailor your request accordingly.
That's the key.
Okay, now, shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about a law that encourages boldness.
Law 28, interaction with boldness.
Yeah, interaction with boldness. That one really resonated with me.
It's a powerful one.
It is, because I think, especially in today's world, it's so easy to get stuck in, like, analysis paralysis.
Overthinking everything?
Yeah, overthinking, second-guessing, and then you end up missing opportunities.
You lose momentum.
Yeah, you lose momentum.
And Greene argues that boldness, it inspires confidence in others when you act decisively. Even if you make a few mistakes along the way, you project an aura of leadership.
Okay, so people are drawn to that.
They are. They're drawn to people who seem confident, who take charge.
Even if they don't have all the answers.
Exactly. It's about taking risks.
Calculated risks.
Calculated risks, yes.
And being willing to learn from those mistakes.
Absolutely. It's not about being reckless.
Right, right.
It's about having the courage to act on your convictions.
Okay, so how do you know when to be bold and when to, maybe hold back a little bit?
That's where self-awareness comes in again.
It always comes back to that.
It does. You have to understand your own limits.
Okay.
Your risk tolerance.
Right.
The potential consequences of your actions.
So boldness without wisdom can be dangerous.
It can be, but boldness guided by self-knowledge, that can be transformative.
Okay, so it's not just about being bold. It's about being smart about it.
Being strategic.
Yeah, being strategic.
Knowing when to push forward and when to hold back.
And I think that brings us back to, like, the core of what Greene is trying to say in this book. These 48 laws of power, they're not, like, a set of rules.
No, they're not commandments.
Yeah, they're more like guidelines.
Principles.
Yeah, principles, a framework for understanding how people work.
Exactly. It's about recognizing these dynamics and making conscious choices about how you navigate them.
It's like a roadmap, but you get to choose your destination.
You're in the driver's seat.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have, from ancient history to modern psychology.
We've talked about persuasion, manipulation,
Self-awareness, strategy.
the ethics of power. It's been quite a journey.
It has.
But it's just the beginning, right?
It's just the beginning. The exploration continues.
So for our listeners out there, keep questioning, keep reflecting.
Keep learning.
Keep learning, and most importantly,
keep discovering the power within you.
That's all the time we have for today, but we hope this deep dive has given you some new insights and inspired you to think differently about power and how it shapes our lives.